morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of New Bern. Yesterday, April 26th, was International Lesbian Day of Visibility. Did you know the L is said first in LGBTQIA2+, to acknowledge the significant contributions of activism the lesbian community were involved with gay men during the time of AIDS epidemic, when many others were hesitant to do so. We honor those who stood up in their contributions by our lesbian community. Today is April 27th, 2025. My name is Nicolette Powell. My pronouns are she, her. Delighted to be your service leader today. Our presenter is our very own Reverend Mary Martin. She will speak on the topic, the paradox of tolerance. Take it away, Stan.
Actually, I left it in my car, so I was kind of behind too. I'm Stan Allen. We've been having what we call UU Minutes to celebrate our 25th anniversary. And so today, on April 29th, 2001, was the first service at Glen Burnie. We moved from the synagogue to Glen Burnie. It was kind of a big change. When I think of the synagogue, I think of white and gold. I'm not sure there's any gold there, but it's that kind of Baroque feeling. And then we went to the synagogue with our famous plastic chairs and stuff. But it was ours, and it was a great day.
Marge Piercy said, "A good anger swallowed clots the blood to slime." But what is to be done with it, this anger that dare not be swallowed? Should it be diluted with denial, cooled with indifference? Should it be sweetened with good intentions, softened with lies? Should it be spewed out red hot over searing tongues, scorching the guilty and innocent alike? What's to be done with it, this anger that does not dare be swallowed? Don't dilute it. Don't deny it or cool it. Don't sweeten it or soften it, but pause for a moment. Could you hold it before your eyes? Examine it with your heart and your mind. Could you hold it and then touch it to your belly, that place where the soul rests? Could you let it enter there, knowing it is part of you that needs to be treated kindly, that needs to be listened to, that needs to be honored? For it has the power to save you and to save us all.
Anyone superstitious? You might want to close your eyes. Get in front of me. Get in front of me. What is this? What is it? It's an umbrella. What is an umbrella for?
Rain.
Right, yeah, so it'll keep you dry in the rain, and if it weren't clear, it might protect you from the sun too, right? Can more than one person use this umbrella?
Oh, that's right, it's so hard. I just wish I had an umbrella.
So this is how we might share an umbrella with a friend, but there are rules for sharing an umbrella. What if Nicolette always pushes Ev out from underneath the umbrella into the rain? She thought it was funny. Would you want to share the umbrella with Nicolette? No way. Well, that doesn't seem very nice. Didn't your parents teach you to share? So if Nicolette insists on using the umbrella wrong, you can't share with her? Interesting. Why don't our children go with Zev and talk more about what it means to be tolerant? Before I started working here, I had dinner in what I now call the upper room at the Chelsea with a lot of you. And one of the questions I was asked during that meeting was, can we really be welcoming of all people? And since then, you'd be surprised maybe the number of times that people have come to me and asked this question in some version or another. It's the reason maybe you've noticed our welcoming statement at the beginning of the service shift and change a little bit. Every time someone comes to me with a concern about this, I'm taken back to one of my favorite studies from my undergraduate degree. My undergraduate degree is in sociology with a second major in political science. Maybe you remember that, but why would you? In 1945, Karl Popper wrote a book called The Open Societies and Its Enemies. And before I tell you about the book, I need you to know about Karl Popper. His family was Jewish and converted to Lutheranism, but he himself was a humanist. He was a staunch believer in democracy and possibility. And he might have been the most influential philosopher of his lifetime. And despite eventually earning a PhD, he dropped out of school at 16, out of sheer boredom. And he started attending university lectures as a guest. He was a child of some privilege, and so he tried manual labor, but he couldn't cut it. And so he went back, earning what would be the equivalent of his high school diploma now at the age of 20, and made his way back officially into university life. In the 1930s, Popper and his family were fearful of what was to come for families of Jewish descent in Austria, and he immigrated to New Zealand, where he would write the book that would turn philosophy on its head. The Open Societies and Its Enemies was a book about freedom and how a free society could remain free. The crux of the entire philosophy hinges on something that he calls the paradox of tolerance. He says this: unlimited tolerance must lead to the disappearance of tolerance. If we extend unlimited tolerance even to those who are intolerant, if we are not prepared to defend a tolerant society against the onslaught of the intolerant, then the tolerant will be destroyed and tolerance with them. He continues a little further into the chapter. We should therefore claim in the name of tolerance the right not to tolerate the intolerant. We should claim that any movement preaching intolerance places itself outside of the law. And we should consider incitement to intolerance and persecution as criminal, in the same way that we should consider incitement to murder or to kidnapping or to the revival of the slave trade as criminal. It may not come as a surprise to you that I don't like rules. And I think I might have that in common with a lot of you. I especially don't like arbitrary rules. This is actually really common in response that a lot of people have to having grown up in oppressive religious groups. Groups that teach you that your very nature is sinful, that try to control too much of your actions. When those who have experienced this type of trauma begin to deconstruct it, often we struggle not to bristle up against rules. It makes it worse to have studied a lot of ethical questions in seminary, because what is ethical may not be the same thing that is written in the rule book. What is right may not even be the thing that's legal. Hiding Anne Frank was illegal, while the murder of thousands of Jewish people was legal at the time. The Fugitive Slave Law of 1850 ensured that the Underground Railroad was illegal. In places of the world where genocides are happening right now in Ethiopia, Sudan, Azerbaijan, and even Palestine. In those regions of the world, what that government is doing for them is legal. I'm not telling you to go break the law. In fact, one of my favorite things about being your minister is that I never have to tell you how to think. I only have to invite you to think. And so, I don't like rules. And I've learned from the time I've spent with you over the last year that most of you don't like them either. And yet, the paradox of tolerance asks a question of us. It asks, can we be tolerant people without a few boundaries around what it means to be tolerant? We are a people who say, whatever your faith tradition is or isn't, you are welcome here. Humanist, atheist, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, pagan, agnostic, you are welcome here. And I personally believe that we mean that. We are people who say wherever you're from, whoever you are, you're welcome here. Whoever you love, you're welcome here. And that welcome can only exist in some boundaries. Our covenant creates those walls for us. The primary covenant of the Unitarian Universalist congregations exists within Article 2 of our bylaws. You might remember that Article 2 answers the question, what's a UU anyway? We have a previous version of this covenant from Article 2 hanging in this building. It used to hang by the t-shirt quilt, but it's now in the entry foyer to our building. The new version of Article 2 that was adopted in July of 2024 says the following. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritage of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are. And it goes on to list our shared values. And then it says how we covenant to uphold them. So it says covenant probably 20 times in this page and a half. That's an estimate. I don't know. Covenant is something that's central to who we are as UUs. It's what holds us together so that we can be welcoming, tolerant people. Since the very concept of being tolerant existed, it has been weaponized against people who are trying to live into it. The intolerant will come in and they'll push people out of the shared umbrella. And then they'll scream intolerance when they aren't allowed to share the umbrella the next time it rains. The intolerant will stand in their own bigotry and claim that they don't hate the sinner, they hate the sin, while actively working to take away the rights of those who are different from them. And when the tolerant begin to speak out against those oppressive laws, we hear things like, boy, for a group of love and acceptance, y'all sure are angry. We mustn't let this discourage us. To truly be tolerant means that we mustn't make room for intolerance. Hate cannot have a home amongst us. And so when we say all are welcome, we mean all are welcome to gather around our shared values. Adapted from Article 2, all are welcome to gather as we covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. All are welcome as we covenant to use our time, our wisdom, our attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities committed to equity. All are welcome in pluralism. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning embracing our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. All are welcome as we seek justice, covenanting to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression, supporting the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large. All are welcome as we covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources, our generosity connecting us to one another. All are welcome as we affirm our interdependence. We covenant to protect the earth and all beings from exploitation. All are welcome as we keep love at the center. This is what you sign on to when you become a member of a UU. And I know what you're thinking. What if we open the doors and those that come in won't honor our values? How do we hold people accountable to our values? Well, one way is for each committee to have a covenant for how they will interact with one another and to center that covenant around our values as UUs. The worship committee has done this work. The board has created a covenant, which is read aloud each month, and at the end, someone grades the meeting based on it. Some of our graders are hard. I'm a millennial. I don't want a B, ever. But in this way, our values are becoming ingrained in who we are. So what was my answer? Can we be welcoming of all people? I think so. In the boundaries of covenant, we can. I submit to you that if we truly live into our UU values, people who don't share them, or more importantly, people who don't want to share them, will see themselves out. And at the risk of getting myself in trouble today before I sign that renewed contract, sometimes we might have to fight the impulse to drag those folks back in because we believe in the good in people and we believe that we are good, and so we're really afraid to offend. I told my kid this week because they're struggling with some of the stuff that's going on at school. You will be too much for some people, and those aren't your people, and that's okay. The most offensive thing to someone determined to divide us will be our determination to remain united. And so I invite you, if you're taking on a chairperson role this year, to think about what covenant and right relationship might look like for your committee. Perhaps renew the covenant or review the covenant that the board has already been using, or the worship committee. And if you and your group feel it's appropriate, to create one of your own or borrow from them. And that in doing so, we can begin to let these values permeate who we are. We are a tolerant people, so very committed to tolerance that we will not tolerate intolerance. May it be so. From Octavia Butler. Tolerance, like any aspect of peace, is forever a work in progress, never completed. And if we're as intelligent as we like to think we are, never abandoned. Blessed be.
Shalom. Shalom. Salam. Ashe. Namaste. Peace.